The only way into Formula Pro starts right here, right now, with the first round of the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge Series, powered by Traction.gg, at the beautiful track of Spa-Francorchamps. In case you've witnessed our first broadcast of the Formula Pro, you're familiar with the track, but now it's all new action and even a slightly different schedule. My name is Rennie Butler, and I'm alongside I've got Cameron Roger, bringing you all the action live from the track. And Cameron, I really hope you got everything ready, pencils, paper, a lot of potential in your brain to make sure that you know about absolutely everything happening tonight on the track.
Well, that's the plan indeed. 45-minute race around Spa, so slightly different to what we saw back on Monday for the Formula Pro, but we are trying to make it just a little bit easier for these guys in the challenge. They need to really show themselves, because obviously the prize is getting themselves into Pro for next season. And as you say, this is the only way to do it, so you need to come and be fast and win some races on the track.
Maybe we should quickly touch base on what the video or the intro Formula Challenge told people about, which is actually multiple splits. Obviously, in this show, we will cover split numero uno. So the best of the best in terms of challenge, and all of them, as Cameron said already, want to make their way into Formula Pro, go for the big bucks there, and try to hunt down probably Bono House in his Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports car, who won Monday's race. So, Cameron, do you think all the drivers watch the first race in Pro and see maybe some strategies there, see what paid off? Maybe they know what others use in their setups there?
Oh, for sure. And there will be some drivers here who would have probably been working with their teammates in the Pro as well. But yeah, for sure, they would have been watching. It's a brand new car, brand new season. We don't really know, even after the first Pro race, we still don't really know what's going on with the car as such, but that is obviously the excitement of bringing a new car to the simulation. So I think it's going to be great to see what these guys do. There's a slightly different strategy element because the race is a bit shorter, but then they also don't have to make a pit stop. So in theory, we could see people going from start to finish, but that is going to be a little bit tricky on the tyres. So all these things we're going to find out very shortly.
Let's also quickly talk about the schedule. Obviously, it follows the Formula Pro schedule, means we're at Spa-Francorchamps for now for round number 1. That we head over to the UK for Silverstone on the 6th of August, always the same week as Pro, but on Friday evenings. And then it's Nürburgring, Indianapolis, Zandvoort, and we end up with Monza. Hopefully more than turn 1, though. Will be quite disappointing end to the championship. But looking at how racing was on Monday, I'm sure we're in for a banger tonight, because racing there was great. We saw amazing overtaking, and we also learned a lot about the car, Cameron, right? We saw that dirty air is not a huge factor because it's all about ground effects.
Yes, certainly is. It's going to be quite interesting to see if these guys maybe change their tactics a little bit, having already seen the Pro race, which is one good thing for the challenge, that obviously they follow the Pro a few days later. But yeah, the car is certainly raceable. It's going to be great to see what they can do. We've got DRS in there, we've got the slipstream, and as you say, the dirty air is keeping them in the possibilities of making some overtakes as well. So I think it's going to be a really great season. And on the screen here, you're just seeing the some of the features that we're going to have during the race. So we're going to, or during the qualifying as well. So we're going to be having a lap limit in the qualifying as well. So that puts a bit of pressure on that 20-minute session. You can't just go out and just do laps and laps. You've got to make sure that you're getting your laps in. And I think with the Parc Fermé edition as well, those two different rules that we've seen from, say, the GT Pro series, where that is all open, you can do what you want. These couple of restrictions coming in are going to make it just that little bit harder.
Yeah, there's no way in running dedicated qualification setups and then changing to a race setup. All of that should already be in place to make sure that you have a good race, which is only 45 minutes long. So it is a bit shorter, as you said already. There's no mandatory pit stop. There might be a few drivers taking the risk of not pitting at all, and all of that happens. And this new 800 HP monster open wheeler racing tonight, 680 kilograms, which is basically nothing. Weighs as much as a Pokemon Relaxo, probably, the Snorlax, just in case you saw the new game coming out. There you go. Double wishbone suspension and the 13 and 12 inch on the right side. These are not the rim sizes. They're actually the brakes. Quite big.
Oh yeah, certainly. This car, the brakes are actually quite an interesting factor for this car, and obviously that's quite an important point where you're going to be making the overtakes as well, especially on this track. all the way up through Eau Rouge and Radion, up to Les Combes. That big braking zone into the chicane is certainly going to be one of the interesting points for this track in particular. But for this season, as you can see, there is a few ways that you can get yourself into pro. So at the end of the season, the bottom couple of pro teams will be dropping out, and that leaves the way for the top couple of drivers in the challenge to basically promote themselves. But that the pro championship is a team's championship as such, so you will obviously have to have a relevant teammate to back you up in that. But certainly getting yourself up into the pro division is what these drivers are going to be doing, and getting themselves into a good team is going to be part of that.
Yeah, slightly different to what we are used to from the GT Pro Series. It's not the top 5 that move up. Instead, it's 2. They nominate a teammate. So if first and second would be off the same team, then third would make it into pro, because obviously they can all nominate a teammate. And as you can see, we still got the rise through the splits. So after round 2, that's the first time where we promote and demote drivers from the different splits. Same in 4, but all of these splits will be automatically filled up with drivers, so it can happen that a driver out of split 3 lands in the split 2 race and can score points there, ensuring that there's always a full grid going. We got the beautiful track of Spa-Francorchamps in the background, and looking down to Eau Rouge currently here, and we saw that with Kevin Siggy in Monday's rFactor 2 Formula Pro broadcast, who got quite sketchy out of Radion up there, nearly lost the car, saved it. Was, by the way, a great social media video in case you checked that out. If you didn't, then definitely do it now, because I probably got a few minutes during qualification to do so. But it's a tricky one. Like, you want to be quick up there, you want to get into the slipstream, but we also saw at the end of Camel Straight, tons of battles were happening.
Yeah, you got to be making sure you are staying absolutely pinned through Eau Rouge and Radion to get the maximum slipstream up the Camel Straight. If you just lift a little bit, you'll lose those couple of hundredths, maybe a couple of tenths of a second, and it's going to be very important to keep within that slipstream. When you're around a second back, you do get a bit of a gain, but you're not just going to be flying past people. You are going to have to be staying close to them to try and make that overtake work. As we said, the dirty is actually quite possible for you to stay that close, but it's not going to be easy, especially if you go with a really pointy setup. Try and get the front end into the corner. It's going to make it a little bit faster, but then a little bit more tricky to stay flat out through Eau Rouge and Radion.
As soon as we can, we'll obviously hop onto the qualification session and look into what's happening there. But as long as we do not have cars on the screen yet, Cameron, maybe we could look just into the starting list. And there are a few names that the rFactor 2 community is definitely familiar with. I mean, looking at spot 4, for example, that's Ibrahim Khan, right? That's Sancho Simsport. A driver that was on top of his game, I would say, in the GT Pro Series. Really good driver, awesome showcase in the previous GT races. Now it's open wheeler, so it's obviously different. Obviously, last 17 seconds before we head into that session. But there's also Arne Schönfeld, for example, 11th. That's a driver that I normally rank very, very high.
Oh, certainly. Schönfeld is one of the best that there is. Unfortunately, he hasn't maybe had the best results over the last sort of 6 months or so in various competitions, but he's certainly a very top driver indeed, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting himself up there, because this qualification, you have to remember, this was a sort of an open hot lap situation as well, so you could do multiple laps in multiple sessions, and some of these people would have done hundreds of laps, some maybe only doing maybe 20 laps on the server. So this so the order that they're coming in may not necessarily be the order when we actually get to the qualifying session, where you only have those limited 6 laps during the qualifying session. So you've got to really be making sure you're making them count, and you don't just have endless laps to be getting in that perfect lap.
Yeah, needs to work on the first goal in an ideal case, and first goal will pay your path. Another of the GT Pro drivers for Purple Motorsport. He had been in the previous 3 seasons of the Pro Series. Went to relegation twice. Managed to stay in Pro last season. Now he's trying his luck in the open wheelers, which is completely different in terms of how you drive them. So it will be very interesting. The same with Arne Schönfeld or Ibrahim Khan, how they do with this switch over. Wonder if that is the first car. And since I'm actually owning that team, I wonder, why do you go out first, Pai? Maybe I should give him a call.
That's a very interesting point that you mentioned, because there's 20 minutes and you only have 6 laps, which is effectively 2 hot laps, because that includes your in and out laps. So 2 3-lap runs effectively is what you're going to see. Obviously the rubber builds up, the grip builds up, and the track is going to be the fastest when you are the last car on track. So going first, then you might be like, maybe that's not great, but at least you're going to be able to get yourself a banker lap in, and then you're going to be able to see what the other guys are doing. So let's see what Pev can do as he comes now out of La Source, getting a lot of wheel spin there.
It's not easy to get all that traction down coming out there, and you want to maximize that obviously with the big rear tires. I mean, they're not small at all. 415, I think it was, on the rear axle, so they're quite massive. Let's see, that's the list. Obviously, everyone's still in the pits, as Pav is the only one up. They're kind of like the old Formula 1 times. You know, we're coming as we're sitting around for 20 minutes, basically, talking about the weather. Or talking about the first Minardi out on track, doing a mistake, and Pav is already, ending that run.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was a track cut, actually, because he went quite wide there. And that's not what he wants to be doing, because now going back to the pit lane, that will basically only give him 1 hot lap remaining. The good thing is that he can now sit around, he can watch the other drivers, and he obviously has that best part of 17 minutes to be getting back out on track as well. And you will be allowed to finish your lap as long as you start it within that time. So I'm sure some drivers will be keeping it right to the end, but hopefully we're going to see some guys setting some purple sectors very shortly.
I should have said he only went out as the first car, because obviously that gives more visibility to our sponsors and partners, because there's no one else on the track currently. We got fans left and right. There's no one else yet just on the track. We lost the first 3.5 minutes of the session already. On the left side, I mean, we know about Mela, right? Shara, that's another pro driver. We had Parisi's in other events previously. Who else is in there? Robin Panza, another big name, I would say, in terms of GT driving. Did very well there.
It's weird how some drivers are maybe doing better or worse than you would expect. For instance, as you see on screen here, Carlos Martin, he races in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. He has done for many years with his team, Netrex, and he's doing really well. But right behind him is his teammate Adam Rainey, and Adam, for those of you who don't know, he's still fairly new. He's been around for a few years now, but he's in I believe it's the third tier, the Academy of Formula Sim Racing. So he's 2 tiers below Martin. But yet, in this competition, he's been able to get himself in the car. As we said, it was the open hot lap, so you were able to do unlimited laps effectively. And he's obviously managed to get himself there, get himself in a good team. So it is weird how you've seen some people jump up a little bit who you maybe don't expect to be there so much. So it is going to be an interesting one to see who actually is going to come out on top once the pressure's on.
And it's not just Martin and Rainey, it's also Noah Rivers, who managed to qualify, I think, in 5th in the open qualifier. A really, really talented and fast Dutchman. So will be interesting to see how he does. Or Jimmy Nusula, one of the satellite racing drivers that we had seen in the previous GT Pro Series competitions. So definitely a name to look out for. And there should be on the list, there it is, Sport, 1 driver from Team Redline. And if we're looking at what happened in Pro on Monday, where the 2 Redline drivers acted actually very, very well, even though it was only, I think, Kevin Siggy who scored proper points up there right behind Bonner House. But they should have all the knowledge, at least about the car already running here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Well, they certainly should, because you're going to assume that they're going to share all that information. And that is actually going to be an interesting one, though. Obviously, if you win this championship, you get yourself up. But then once if your team is already in Pro, that would be quite an interesting one for Jimmy and the team behind the crew to sort it out. But let's have a look at Jim Paresis here for Edge Esports, coming now through the old no-name corner. Edge Esports, they've been doing pretty well in multiple open wheel championships, also in the VEC as well, in the endurance side of it. Jim Paresis, though, a veteran in open wheel sides, been around FSR for many, many years. He's been runner-up in that championship multiple times as well. So he certainly knows what he's doing, and he's obviously setting purple sectors at the moment with there not being too many people out on track. But let's see what he's doing as he comes into Sector 3 and where he's going to put himself for the moment.
And it seems like actually even has a Road to Formula Pro on the car, written on the side, if I saw that correctly. A really cool detail there. Absolutely love the liveries that the designers for the teams put on every single time we do bigger championships or events. Amazing to see that, and it really gives the right vibe, I would say, for such events and for racing in general. So I'm talking about cool liveries and good-looking ones. Jim Parisis comes across the line, 141.7. I think we were down to 140.4 during the pro qualification. That's a bit quicker than that. A double left-hander was running a bit wide over the curb outside of the white lines.
Yeah, I believe, because obviously there's an automatic system that detects those things. I think that might just have been okay, and his lap is on the scoreboard, so I would say that it has counted. But let's see his teammate, Laurent Keersmakers, very fast driver, Belgium, I believe. So this is his home track, along with the team, and he's going to go up there with a 0.5, so almost 0.2 quicker than his teammate.
Neda Marini tried as well, but only came in 5th, so the slowest time out there. Well, we see the first Vulcan car, Vulcan Motorsport with Blaž Remenjek. Comes around the last chicane. It's really hard here. There's a bit of banking up the inside. You want to get all that traction. You feel super slow coming out there. And that sometimes leads to you being too much on the accelerator. Managed to get into where it is, Vulcan 7th. So that was the slowest time so far from the ones that set a lap time. Noah Rivers, very first time to have him on the screen. I think he is currently also an FSR in Pro or even World Championship. If I'm not mistaken.
He's leading the Pro Championship, and he quite comfortably actually. He's won many races there, and he's looking, well, he's already been confirmed to be moving up to the World Championship with Netrex next season. So good job to him getting himself up there. So certainly looks like Edge and Netrex in the top 4 at the moment. Let's see where Nasulu's going to put himself up into P5 for Satellite. But these times are certainly very close. We're still in a half second for the top 7.
Barbakov now with his own team, as we can see in the bottom right. Great yellow livery, at least that's easy to spot on the track. Boyan Barbakov with the number 9. No, it's not the number 19. What's his number? 18 is the number. 19 is the current position he's listed on, obviously without a time just yet. We only have 10 in so far. We've got another 11 minutes to go, so I fear track will be kind of busy in the very last minutes of this session.
I certainly will. When the track starts rubbing in, people will try and then get their laps in. Stein goes up to 8th place at the moment, but there's only been 11 of these drivers so far posting a time, so I'm sure we're going to see these lap times come down. And as you say, the pro guys were getting into the 1-minute 40s. However, you would also expect the pro drivers to be just that little bit quicker. As we jump to Shungli, who is now in the Zancho Simsport team, having recently moved there from Ajira, if I'm not mistaken. So new team, and Zancho obviously working with Rocket, who are in the Pro Series. So plenty of drivers will get a bit wiggly there, though, coming out onto the back straight. So there's certainly good foundations behind this team. A couple of tenths down in that middle sector, though, so he might not be challenging for pole position, but he might still be getting well up inside the top 10.
That isn't looking too bad, but there's still the chicane. Heavy braking, going down second gear, and then trying to not lose the rear end here. A bit of wiggling once again coming out. It's an aggressive car. And then across the line, let's see, it's a 141.9, currently 6th position. I can't really complain about that, but also the entire grid did not race yet, and one of them is Colin Spork, the quickest driver in the open qualifier for this championship, striking the Team Redline livery. So he obviously wants to follow Kevin Siggy and teammate there. Or it wasn't Kevin Siggy who came second. It was Riedfeld who came second for Team Redline. And not Kevin Siggy. He was struggling a bit actually on Monday. And after a few incidents on track. It wasn't an easy race, that's for sure. Let's see if Colin Sport can do better than that, or at least follow his other teammate who came second in the session. 2 green sectors so far. Probably not what he's looking for coming in here with the quickest qualification time.
Yeah, that number one on his car, maybe giving a little bit of pressure because it already makes people think you're going to be challenging at the top. He's getting a little bit wiggly now coming into the final chicane, 6 tenths down in that middle sector though. So I don't think this is going to be at least challenging for top positions, but let's see where he's going to go. He's purple in the final sector though. That puts himself up into P9, just over half a second off pole. So if he manages to get those 6 tenths in the middle sector, he will be challenging. But now someone who is going purple is Ibrahim Khan in the first 2 sectors.
Yeah, that was quite an aggressive exit in another purple sector. So Ibrahim Khan, after showcasing that he's definitely a contender on the GT side, now also with a provisional pole position here in the very first qualification of Formula Challenge. Daniel, it's not for Varga Sim Racing. Varga, another team, has 2 drivers already in the Formula Pro on Monday. So he will also the advantage of the knowledge there. 15th so far, which is the slowest time that was clocked so far from the drivers. Granqvist, another driver without a team. You can see with the rFactor 2 logo there, but just striking no livery. I like that.
Yeah, Granqvist is always he's going to mess up his outlap there. Fortunately, it's quite a short run to the line, so he may only lose a couple of hundredths or something coming down to this first corner, but that's not the way you want to be starting your lap at the moment. But yeah, he's certainly been around for a couple of years now. He knows what he's doing, but he hasn't had the most experience in the last 6 months or so in terms of racing these open wheelers and other leagues. However, he can be a very quick driver on his day, so let's wish him luck this season. I should say driving on his own though, at least representing his own team. So if he hasn't really got anyone to work with, he might be struggling just a little bit, but he's only a 10th down in the first sector as someone's off there in Lecon.
I was wondering, that was a grey rat car that we saw there. Quite sure who was it. How much that for powered by RSR? That's, by the way, a nice looking livery. It's a bit too white for me once again from the front, but absolutely love the sight shot. Clean and simple. Nice colours. Let's see where he lands with his very first time on the board. 2 green sectors, but that was plus 2.2 off there. 144, so that will obviously not get him anywhere near the top. Now Robin Ponsa, it's also, I'm not quite sure if he managed to get into GT Pro relegation or even had a season of GT Pro, but that was too aggressive over the curb. Lost the car there.
Yeah, he definitely struggled a bit in the previous season with the GT Pro series. Hopefully goes a little bit better here for the Formula Challenge. And now Granqvist coming into the final chicane, currently in that 18th position. But let's see what he can do as he comes out of the final corner, because this is actually going to be his first lap indeed. A little bit of run to the line, and where he's going to put himself up into P12 on the 42.2, so still about a second off. But now let's see Andrea across the line for Volante, goes up into that P12 instead with a 42.1.
Took it immediately, and now Adam Rainey for Natrace GP. His teammate Noah Rivals currently sitting at 3rd, and his other teammate actually in 6th. So there's quite a bit of expectations, I would say, on Natrace GP, obviously due to their history and past with other open wheeler series. They should perform quite well, and with having 3 drivers, they definitely have the right base here. So let's see what he can do. Pate's turns. That looked like into pit. I was like, that can't be the case because he was way closer to the curb. And he comes across 143.2. Not what he's looking for. We already see a way bigger gap in terms of times than we have in the Pro Series.
Yeah, we certainly have. It was a bit quick. I mean, you see there the guys towards the back, some 3 seconds off pace, which is a little bit interesting actually, because the times would have been a lot closer in the qualification. But as you mentioned, you have so much time and so many laps that you can do in those hot lap qualifying sessions, or pre-qualifying sessions, I should say. Then when you come to the actual qualifying session on race day, you've only got 2 attempts. There's so much more pressure for you to do that, and you see Ciara here getting a little bit wiggly with the rear end as well, so just little things like that. If it was a hot lap session, you would just press escape and go out again, but you can't do that. You've got to keep getting every single lap in, and he's already coming up to a second in total off the pole position, so he's got to be somewhere in the middle of the field, around 15th place or so. So let's see what he does as he comes around the final chicane.
Yeah, pressure is way more on overshooting the apex here. That was not the ideal chicane he was looking for. Probably training by an entire second. Yeah, 142.7, only 17th starting position. Probably his last attempt. Arne Schonfeld, he's on another one. Already sitting in 8th. First sector looks good.
He certainly does. Just that 10th down, but this middle sector is where all the corners are pretty much. So this is where not only your driving confidence, but also your setup, everything coming together really happens in that middle sector. So let's see as he comes around this corner. We'll be getting the next sector split, and he's lost that 4/10 in the middle sector. However, in total, that would still be an improvement, especially if he can make another improvement in this final sector. But this final sector is really just this final chicane, but it's certainly a tricky one to nail.
We'll see as he comes around. But chicane once again. Arne Schonfeld for Sancho Simsport. Wow, coming in hot there. A little drift. Let's see if he can carry any advantage across the line, or if he stays in 8th. No, he stays.
But these drivers still have just over a couple of minutes left, so they will be able to get out and start another lap. I believe that's Schumbli's laps all completed now, as we saw someone just jump up there, but now we're on board with D'Alessandro for Pescara. Let's see where he's going to put himself up into 5th place. That's a nice improvement from him. And Rebignac coming across the line. 18th place moves up to 17th, so still an improvement for him. And now the times are coming in thick and fast as Mellor's coming across the line. Now where can he improve? He's going to stay there in that 10th position.
Yeah, Tony Mellor, he's a good driver, and starting in the top 10, I think, is acceptable for the very first race. There are still a few drivers without a lap time, I think. 18th. It doesn't get any further than that. Let's see. New tracks yet now with drive on 3 and 4. Definitely looking strong here. With Team Redline only in 11th. Payopath, the unlucky guy who went out first. First driver on the track. And to see the conditions, but so far one of the few drivers without any lap time, or even the only driver without any lap time.
I think
there are a few more.
He was just going to be waiting really for Pev. We'll have to see what he does. But now Rovers to the line, where he's going to put himself up into 2nd place, but still almost 2/10 off pole position. But 2nd is certainly going to be helping him from Ibrahim Khan on that pole position at the moment. Now Thomas Schwack still 2 seconds off in that middle sector, so I don't think it's going to be a huge improvement. Stays in that 20th position, but yeah, Rovers there, certainly good place, jumping himself up. So Netrex now with a 2-4, so certainly looking like that team has prepared themselves well. But another team who's doing well is Edge, currently with a 3-6. But still, Kismaker's now into the final corner. Only a couple of tenths off in the first 2 sectors, but what can he do coming out of the final line? Still a decent run to the line, so you've got to get a good exit. And where is he going to put himself? He's going to stay in that 3rd position there.
Yeah, that was his last shot at the front row, and it's not making it, while Moronchek moves up to 7th, right in front of Jimmy Nisula. And here is Payopath, one of the few drivers without a lap time, but there were a few more, as we saw in the tower. Let's see how he does. First attempt he had to abort to either cutting the track or just having a few issues coming out of the corner. Ibrahim Khan, another purple sector. He is already front row, and not just front row, also pole position. It seems like he might be able to even improve that lap time as the session comes to an end. He comes across the line, and he does 141.1. That's quite quick, sending Noah Rovers down by 0.28 behind. And I think there will probably be no one really challenging Ibrahim Khan now for the very first pole position in the new Formula Challenge Championship. Payopath now finally getting a time on the board. Let's see where he will end up. 141.8. Top 10 for him. 9th, right in front of Schonfeld. And then gets dropped down to 10th immediately as... what was that? That was... I
think it was Grankfist in that 5th place managed. So that's not bad, considering, as we said, he's an independent driver. But now someone joining a new team. Spork into Team Redline. Where's he going to put himself? Into 9th place. And now Robin Panzer only in 19th. You'd expect him maybe to be a little bit higher. But Burst also did struggle a bit in the Pro Championship on Monday, and Mochek is only in 8th, so maybe Burst need to to work on something there. But also another team with some drivers a little bit lower than what they wanted is Butler Powell. Sorry, Rennie. And now Ciara coming into the final chicane, where he's going to put himself currently in 22nd position. He's about, about 7/10 off so far in total. Now coming out of the final corner, can he get himself a bit up towards the top 15 or so? Yes, 15th place indeed is where he's going to be putting himself for his qualifying position.
That means the first qualification came to an end, with Ibrahim Khan of Sancho Simsport claiming the first ever pole position right in front of Noah Rovers, who will share the front row with him. And looking at the team, since obviously the Pro Championship is a team championship, let's see the best team is Nitrox GP in this one, followed probably by Edge Esports. They are in 3rd and 7th. And then it should be Sancho probably 1st and 12th with Arne Schunfeld.
Yeah, the team situations are certainly an interesting one, because if you just look at those logos, for instance, Khan, he's going to be all himself out at front. His teammate there down, Schunfeld down in 12th place, isn't really going to be able to help him during the race. Whereas Netrex with Rovers and Martin up there, they might be able to do something. They might be able to work together in some way. Just have some sort of help with each other on the strategy, that sort of thing. They've really got a little bit more to play with. It is a shorter race than the Pro race. It's down to 45 minutes, so a little bit shorter. But with the removal of that mandatory pit stop, you might see some people trying to do the whole race on one stint, which could be quite an interesting factor.
Wondering if you could just mix match, huh? Having mediums up front, soft in the rear. See what's happening. But you're right. I mean, this is a different format to pros. It's not like the GT Pro and GT Challenge series last season, where you could basically just copy over what you saw in the Pro race and then do the same in the Challenge race. As you said, the rules are different. The time of the session is different. And with that, they all have to try out new things. And we discussed that before going live, Cameron, right? What if people might get a bit more aggressive and risky across the season, right? First race, people might be more on the safe side, want to make sure that they look good on the very first broadcast. But later on, when every point counts, they might be willing to take a few more risks, while the drivers have one chance now to run with full... Oh, wow. That was a Volante car on the left side in the wall, if I saw that correctly. But now everyone runs with full fuel tank again, just to get dialed in for the first race.
They surely are going to get more aggressive, because it's a brand new car, as we mentioned. So the teams are literally going into this blind, and not only is it a new car, but it's literally only been out for about 2 or 3 weeks now. So it's not like they've had the ability to maybe race the car in a different competition or do loads and loads of simulated test races. You don't really know what is going to happen. And even that Pro race back on Monday, you haven't learned loads of things from it. So we're still going to be trying to work out what these drivers are going to do. So it's a 45-minute race. There's a formation lap before that as well, which you need to account for. There is refueling. And that is quite a big factor, because obviously the more fuel you run, the longer you can go, but then your car is a lot heavier. And running the full 45 minutes worth of fuel, you're pretty much going to be somewhere in the region of 2 seconds or so per lap slower than if you were obviously on just the qualifying fuel. So you're going to need to balance that out, whether you're going to go maybe do a pit stop and then do half and half, or are you going to take more fuel so that your pit stop is then shorter? All these different things and all these different factors are going to come into it. Or, as we said, are you just going to run 45 minutes worth of fuel and just run heavy and keep that track position?
Yeah, it will be an interesting first race of the season. And we'll probably learn a few things here and there along the way, I would say, about the drivers, about their strategy, about how much risk they're willing to take. Well, we see all of them going through Rouge up the hill. Currently love that camera shot, by the way. Really cool to see the cars going by once again as they warm up the very last minutes before slotting in on the grid. And when we're looking at the start, and we saw that kind of in the Pro race on Monday, do you, like as Ibrahim Khan, if you get challenged down into La Source, do you want to really defend it, or do you might slot behind Noah Rovers, for example, going up the hill and then take him down at the end of Camel Straight?
So it is a difficult one. I personally would actually like to be in second place coming up through this sequence of the track, because as we've mentioned many times with this track, you just get this massive slipstream. But the thing is here, as you see from the car we're on board with, it's not, when you're this far behind, it's not crazy. So yeah, it really depends on the exit you get out of turn one. I would certainly at least like to be in second place, probably, to get the slipstream. It's very difficult to defend when you're the leader and you've got everyone coming behind you in a big train.
Interestingly, in the warm-up, they kind of used that for for some fighting and getting warmed up. We saw that maneuver going too wide through the first chicane earlier in Pro, and that did not work that well, but it did in this attempt. Looking good so far. Sancho team dialed in. Obviously, a bit of bias probably from Lewis McGlade, who's in the chat, pretty much sure that Aidan Millward is out there as well. Oh no, Aidan Millward can't be in the chat. He is racing in Split 2 himself.
He is. So maybe one day this season we'll see him in Split 1. We'll have to see how he does on that. But yeah, there's certainly a few other people trying to do it from the driving side of things. I believe there's even talks of there being about 8 splits, which is great to see that they're getting so many drivers. And if you yourself want to get involved, then not just this competition, but there's other more casual competitions on the official rFactor 2 competition system within the game as well. So just get yourself rFactor 2 on the Steam store, and inside the game you'll be able to get yourself into some competitive racing.
Definitely check out the comp system as you set already. There are plenty of races, obviously not just open wheelers. There's GT racing, right? There's some historic racing as well. And something for every one of us to enjoy, I would say, in terms of classes and race cars. That was the Volante car that we saw during the warm in the wall. Let's hope we just checked out a few things to not do that during the actual race, because in a 45-minute race, no mandatory pit stop, it's hard to actually have a big comeback once something went wrong. A bit different in Pro, we saw that there multiple people had to stop 2 times. We also saw drivers that had a very, very early stop, then managed to get back even inside the top 10, and then went for another pit stop. So there have been different strategies visible for us. I'm not quite sure if we will have the same variety in something like GT Challenge with the 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We don't know what's going to happen yet. One point to make though was that the 2-stop in Pro didn't work compared to the 1-stop. So, well, in terms of winning the race at least. So you're not going to gain loads of positions by doing that. So I would say the first couple of drivers are probably just going to try and do the whole race on one fuel tank for 45 minutes. But the interesting point with that is, do you then take the soft or the medium tyres? Because the soft tyres, we know, can last around 30 minutes or so. But can they last the full 45 minutes when you're already having a lot heavier fuel? We'll have to find out. But then if you take the mediums, you're going to be a lot slower as well. So there's these things that you have to factor in that you won't know, because pretty much everyone in Pro, you only use the soft tyres. So the mediums are still a bit of an unknown, and we'll have to see. You will see them by the colouring on the tyres. The white is the soft, the yellow is the medium. So if anyone's using those yellow tyres, you know what's going on.
It's not just that. I mean, as you said, the mediums are a bit slower than the soft tyres, but what we touched on previously is obviously also the fuel in them, right? So if you go without a pit stop, that means you're running around with all the fuel that you need for the entire race. So it makes it even heavier and even slower for the start, and especially with all the cars around you, ton of slipstream. It's questionable if that works. While we see a test start here and during warm up, it's not as complicated as in the real world series that most of us know in terms of practice starts. Although I wonder if race marshal and race director Jimmy is already on this. Like, wait, practice starts.
Yeah, you have to be quite careful with that, because obviously you're stopped on a part of the track where you're going flat out and you're not expecting anyone else to be literally stopped. Fortunately, it's actually quite a wide like starting location, I guess you'd call it, at this track. It is quite wide, so there's still certainly plenty of room for doing practice starts. It's always a little bit cheeky. And starting this car is actually quite interesting. We heard some of the pro drivers saying that you really have to give the car a lot of throttle, otherwise you're going to be stalling the car and having a bit of a bad situation with the anti-stall kicking in, which is what happened to a couple of drivers in the pro race. So hopefully the guys in challenge would be watching that and doing enough practice, because a standing start is a little bit different to what we normally do as well. We normally see rolling starts, so that is a different skill that these drivers need to learn.
I have to say I didn't witness the standing start before the pro race on Monday for quite a long time, with everything focusing on GT racing and endurance, and all of that is, besides the actual new DTM series, I think they're starting standing instead of rolling, because that was always part of the DTM championship in the real world. But yeah, it is different, and we're basically going back to highlight moments that we all know from watching real motorsport, right? Where the car in front of you stalls and doesn't get off the line as quick as you do, and then all kind of chaos can happen. Luckily, during the pro race, chaos was avoided there, but as you said, there were a few drivers that were being challenged, I would say, by the standing start. So let's see if the challenge drivers learned from that. We definitely need to get someone to clean those curbs. A bit dirty by now.
Yeah, when they're rubbed in, they're not a bit more nice and grippy. And especially that one, actually, the entry of Eau Rouge, you really want to use it to open it up. It is easy flat out, or pretty much easy flat out in these cars, so it's not too big of an issue, but it's certainly something you want to do. You want to be straight lining that as much as you can to scrub off as little speed to get that slipstream up the Kemmel Straight. But I'm sure these drivers have been practicing enough and being prepared for this new season.
And that's the first starting grid. Ibrahim Khan on pole position, Noah Roy was second, then Laurent Kersmakers in third, and Carlos Martin the second Interex GP car in the second row on fourth, Jan Granqvist on fifth, followed by Michel De Alessandro for Pescara on sixth, Jimmy Parisis for Edge, and then David Mronjek from Burst Esports, another team that has a few drivers in this. Colin Spork, after being the quickest in the qualification, the open qualifier for Redline, only 9th, Nisula 10th, Hayapaf 11th, and then Arne Schunfleet in 12th. These two actually had a ton of Porsche battles in the GT Pro Series already, and now they're getting another go with the open wheelers. Seems like we only get the top 12 for today, because that is the race start. There was no warm-up lap this time, and back in the grid we saw a ton of parts flying around already, but Ibrahim Khan, he's still leading, and then seems like Noah Roybus is under a lot of pressure already by Edge and Kersmakers right behind. Jan Jankris has a good look at everyone else up Eau Rouge, but that was a messy start down there. Luckily we catch that start and everything that happened, and it's even worse there on Rodeo. Wow, that was really close for Stupkowski. Luckily he made it through.
Oh yeah, there's a huge crash there at the top of the hill. Hopefully the car's going to be able to get back, but I don't think they're going to be continuing, which is the unfortunate situation with that part of the track. But yeah, Khan getting a very good start from Rovers and Kersmakers as well. They're all staying in their positions for now, so in actual fact it turned out to be good, Khan getting that pole position, but he had a couple of tenths in pole position. Let's see now if he's going to pull away at the front of the field.
Yeah, Ibrahim Khan nearly, over half a second, nearly a second of a gap already in front of Noah Roybus. But Noah also a driver, as he said, from FSR that has the experience on open wheeler cars, and definitely doesn't shy away from just following first and looking at Ibrahim Khan. We'll get the replay of the start. No, that is what happened. Rouge and Rodeo. Barbakov, he got tapped on the rear wing there, on the rear tire. And talking about tires, he also lost one. One's gone, so is his front, and I think even the rear wing. Not a great start into this new championship for him.
Yeah, nor was there someone on the starting grid. They lost, I believe it was their rear wing. I couldn't see who it was because it was right at the back of the field, but someone lost their rear wing at the beginning, so maybe it was that stalling issue, as we said. It's always a possibility. in these cars. So now let's see what Unashamedly can do. Down in 9th place currently behind Jim Paresis. Some guys you would potentially expect them to be towards the front of the field, or at least the very front of the field. So let's see what they can do over the course of this race. We obviously have DRS in this car as well. So once it gets to the zone, at least not just yet, in a couple of laps time, when it gets activated, they'll be able to DRS. But now let's see what the slipstream's like, just enough to at least have a think about it. But I'm sure that DRS will help them.
By the way, Arne Schoenfeld also had a great start, I think. He started 12th behind Payapav, and now he's up to 9th already, so managed to get his way into the top 10. For Sancho Simsport, now following Parisi in front, and then... It's actually quite a lot of traffic for now. That we see a Nibrix car in there trying to block. That is... I have to get used to all these short abbreviations of names. I was always a fan of Tower having full names, actually. Just getting that out there. If you ever wonder what you want to get on Tower, it's not that. But that's Tony Mella on the screen, and the typical satellite racing colours in the back with Jimmy Nasuda. And a bit further down, we also have 15th, 16th actually. No, 17th and 18th. There's quite a bit of gap already here, Cameron. And it seems like we now get more like fighting groups. So compared to Pro, which was one long train in the beginning, there's a bigger gap here between the drivers, especially on the very first laps.
Yeah, we certainly saw in qualifying as well, there were just a bit bigger gaps in general with the time spread across the field. So I would expect, some guys to sort of spread out just a little bit. But as long as we get some nice, good battles at the front, which it certainly seems like it. And actually, Rovers has got in the lead somewhere. Khan has gone down to 2nd place on the tower. So we'll see how that's going to work. But now D'Alessandro with DRS trying to get past Carlos Martin, braking just not quite enough. Carlos still doing a good job on the brakes to hold him there into Les Combes. And now D'Alessandro is going to have to think about Mojek behind him as well. So just showing you DRS is going to help you, but it's not just going to be a slam dunk overtaken. Let's see what happened to Khan.
Yeah, probably the DRS that you just talked about here on the... No, that isn't very Khan. I'm quite confused. I was waiting for the maneuver of Noah Wright was passing him. But I think that's not what we had on the screen here. But
I think that was just some sort of technical issue, to be honest. It looked like he just jumped back behind Rovers. So that's a pretty easy overtake for Rovers. So I'm sure Khan's going to be annoyed with the computer.
A new level of penalty.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Some people might complain about things here and there, but at the end of the day, we're racing with software, hardware. Things are going to have issues, just like you would have issues with your car in real life.
Well, that is true. It's very similar, and it's once again the driver not really being in control of that, right? Just like in the real world with the cars. Talking about in control, Carlos Martin would like to in control of the podium spot, but for that he has to close the gap to the edge car of Kesmaker in front. And then there's D'Alessandro, who had a go at him the previous lap, right behind. Arne Schoenfeld already up to 8th now. So I would say probably the driver that won the most spots so far inside the first top 15. Really doing a great job here once again for his team. Now Alessandro side by side with Carlos Martin again, but it isn't enough. Every single time Carlos Martin is able to hold him off here at the Camel Straight.
Yeah, D'Alessandro, a very good driver indeed, but just needs to try and find a way past. Mojek's right behind him as well, so Carlos needs to see if he can hold on to this pressure, but he's certainly an experienced man now is the Spaniard. So let's see what he can do, if he can hold on. He is starting with this fighting. He's starting just to lose a bit of ground to Keersmakers, who in turn is losing ground to the top 2. So they need to be careful. It's only a 45-minute race, remember, and you don't have to make a pit stop. So I wouldn't be surprised if...
look at
the end.
Tower. I think Arne Schoenfeld had a problem there because he dropped massively on the tower because Payapav is now up to 9th. That is Jimmy Paresis looking at the Volante car and spun around here, I think. Might have just been a bit too much throttle applied though. You need to see that from the other perspective. but something happened for sure.
No
It's
front wing.
It's down to 12. Yeah.
Yeah, no front wing. So something's obviously happened there. That doesn't just happen by itself. And he's now got 3 cars all over the back of him. They need to be careful because he is 100% going to be coming into the pit lane. There's no way he's going to be able to continue with that. So yes, he's going to pull off here. And yeah, we didn't see that. He was up into, I believe it was 7th place before he lost his front wing. Before he's now slowing down. There's such a slow pit lane here trying to get a new front wing, although it might be a retirement from him because he's going to be really struggling to get back up into the top points.
Not the first 10 minutes are not done just yet, but still making it back in 35 minutes will be hard. Currently leading is Noah Roivas, while we see Ibrahim Khan being in a lot of trouble. It has to defend now against Lauren Kersmakers after I think what looked like a mistake there. And now the Edge driver was able to close the gap, but look how Ibrahim Khan is immediately blasting away again.
Yeah, he's certainly very quick, but there's just been a couple of issues here. So let's see. Arne Schumvli now says 20th position, but he would have been a lot. Oh, actually, is that that's like a chain reaction, really? He had a bit of contact with, I believe that's Paresis, who got involved with, I believe that was Grankfist, and then losing his front wing, and then he had to do a whole lap without his front wing because he just went past the pantry before he obviously realised that. So that is quite an interesting one. But Zancho is certainly looking very quick there. Schumvli making up some positions, unfortunately gone down again. But Khan, he looks very quick, just making well, I guess the first one wasn't really his fault, but then the second one having a bit of an issue as well. But he's certainly pulling away again. Let's see, battle for the lead. Is he now going to try and go around the outside, have a bit of contact? But somewhere in here, another little freeze as well. So he's certainly having a couple of issues on the software side of things.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. I mean, Ibrahim Khan, not a driver to do many mistakes in a race at all, and definitely not such a mistake. That's for sure. While we on board here with Lysandra, who's in the fighting group once again. He has Moronchek on the back, and in front that should be Kissmaker on the inside. Now all the way around, and that does not work. Quickly touching the rear tire and sending even another car around. That was the edge car of Cursemakers, I think. Yeah, it is. And all of a sudden he's off the podium and down into 7th position.
That's such a unfortunate situation for Keersmakers. It looked like Martin really came down on him onto the apex, the first apex of Les Combes, which just obviously meant with his spin, he just got caught up with D'Alessandro and Mochek as well. I did think I saw a little bit of steering damage for Keersmakers. Oh, someone's off in the back there. Is that Jimmy Nasula going for a bit of a ride, losing his front wing? He's also got some steering damage there. So a few drivers here getting into some issues. We're only 10 minutes inside the race, but some action is certainly happening in these opening stages.
Yeah, it seems like pressure is on, and a bit more. I would say a bit more parts flying around. So if you really hunt for those on the track, then this is probably the bad championship compared to Pro. I think we only lost one front wing and maybe a rear wing. A few more here. We get the replay of what happened to Jimmy Nisula. Let's see, that could be Moronchek in front. He just lost it on the curb there. Not getting the traction he was expecting from the tires, and then slipped away.
Yeah, he just did a bit of an overcorrection there, and that is not going to be helping his day. And quite an interesting one here for Spork and Keersmakers, as Keersmakers is basically the team manager at the moment at Edge Esports, and Spork does drive for Edge in other championships as well. We'll have to see what that does. Oh, Keersmakers getting a bit wiggly there, but Spork have being a friend at least, let's say, of Edge, but I'm sure they're going to be fighting here when they're racing 4 different teams. Let's see now, Keersmakers getting the slipstream, but with that a little bit of a wiggle at the top of the hill. I don't think he's going to be able to get that. He needs to make sure he's having a nice, clean move up that hill.
Looks a bit more like an IndyCar now, with a missing front wing from that perspective. But Spork still defending against Keersmakers. Team Redline versus Edge Esports. And then in the background, it's not Adam Rainey, it's one of the Volante cars. So that should be... We check my list once again. I'm fighting. Great.
Andre. Darius Andre.
Darius Andre. Yeah, alright. Sorry, I was only reading the first names. I was like, wait, that does not work. I have to get used to that. I started with the pro names, obviously, from Monday. And I'll have to get all the names down for the challenge series. So, sorry for that. But it seems like Kiersmaker's not in a position just yet, but might be at the end of this stretch. Going into the chicane, that's where Arne Schonflet lost his front wing. And Kiersmaker's not even trying.
Difficult situation here for Sport because he's now got, 4 drivers right behind him. So if he obviously doesn't have DRS when all of the cars behind do. So they're going to be getting very close. There's Rayleigh there, a bit of contact that's going to be with Andre. He just got a little bit too close, and you've got to be careful to do that because if you're too close, then you'll actually basically get yourself too close to car ahead and you won't have the overspeed. So Adam Rayleigh here, he's going to get this overtake very quickly, but will he be able to maintain that as we get up to Les Combes? We'll have to see as there's a bit of battling ahead as well. They're still side by side. You just see Adam Rayleigh there, didn't quite have the overspeed. Can he go around the outside of Les Combes there? That'll be an amazing move if he's given the space by Andre, which he is. So Adam Rayleigh makes that position there up into what would be 8th position, and they're still going to be fighting down into Rivage.
With that, 3 Nutrex GP drivers in the top 10. So quite good for them. And a big fighting group that we still have there. Let's see what we get as a replay. That is Lauren Kiersmaker's. And wait, we're now
getting past.
Oh.
He was getting past Spork there in the picture of a picture, and now we're getting it in full screen. So he gets past there. Spork looks like he didn't really fight that one loads and loads. So he obviously just wanted to not lose too much time, at least in the battle. And Kiersmakers has now gone completely up the road from Spork, which is quite an interesting one. Maybe they're on a bit of a different strategy. We'll have to see. Once again, there's no mandatory pit stop, but there is still the possibility due to the amount of fuel, the amount of weight you would have to carry if you did the whole race on one tank of fuel. But now let's see the slipstream here. Pata's defending in this 13th position. He's going to be able to hold on there, at least for now, with Pave just in front.
Yeah, Pav seems like holding them off a bit, at least in the chicane. The next 2 cars looked a lot quicker. And talking about quick, Noah Rivers still in the lead, but the gap that was at 1.3 seconds even is now down to 1.5 seconds. So it seems like Ibrahim Khan is back in action, and this is still a Sandra around the outside of Carlos Martin, and that worked quite well.
That corner scares me so much. You saw what happened with Kiersmakers and Martin earlier, where the car on the outside often just pinches down, and you often see some contact there. But now Adam Rayleigh trying to get another move. Colin Spork there going out wide. Rainey's going to be able to get himself down the inside into the hairpin. That's going to be another move for the NetRex driver. So Spork really slowing down here a little bit, it looks like. At least losing a couple of positions as we hit 30 minutes remaining in the race. So I do wonder why he's just a little bit slower. As we mentioned, he's the number 1 qualifier. You'd expect him to be a little bit higher. So I'm hoping it's just a bit of strategy. But let's see what D'Alessandro has done.
And probably make good use of the DRS that was available for him when crossing that line. I see the Pescara car being quite quick. But move wasn't done before going in the corner. Luckily, both drivers played that really well here. Otherwise, it might have ended in tears. So, quite happy about that.
And just as we're seeing that replay, I noticed up the top, RAI got a penalty, which I believe is Adam Rayleigh. So just after his overtake on the Spork, he got himself a penalty. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a drive-through penalty, which will probably be for track cuts. So in that case, he's really going to lose quite a bit because it is quite a slow pit lane here, and will be losing quite a bit of time.
Especially it's a long pit lane as well, so not really what you want to aim for, but it happens with the track cuts, especially when you're fighting and you're trying to extend it here and there just a tiny bit to get the upper hand. Ibrahim Khan now nearly in striking distance, half a second to Noah Rivers, so the raw pace of Ibrahim Khan right now is unmatched, because Noah Rivers definitely not up to that task as of right now, but closing the gap is one task. Getting by is a completely different one. So let's see if Ibrahim Khan can get that done. Still 28 minutes to go. That should be enough time for sure.
Certainly to make an overtake, but that is quite incredible actually, because Khan was, I believe, was about 3.5 seconds off Rovers when he had that issue into Les Combes for the second time, where I believe it was Kismakers almost got past him. But yeah, Khan, he's had a couple of little things so far, but really coming back, so I do believe he's going to be the class in the field. But now let's see what happened. This is Adam Rainey getting past Spork into Les Combes. Is there going to be a bit of contact? There might just be as we get to the last part of the chicane. Or no, maybe not a bit of contact, but certainly him getting quite close to the Dutchman.
Yeah, Spork definitely tried to avoid a contact there and went up the curb to get away. And getting away, that's probably what Noah Roivers is wishing for. But Ibrahim Khan already locked on to him, and it could be he will take back the lead of the race after the first nearly 20 minutes now. DRS available for him as well. Beautiful overlay, by the way, showing it. So love that. Not enough, though, to go side by side. Noah Roivers defending up the inside all the way to the line. And with that, Ibrahim Khan has to wait for the next longer stretch, and you see him immediately here falling a bit behind. Seems like Noah Roivers has a way quicker car through Recom, at least when DRS was close for him.
Yeah, that is a interesting, or potentially interesting point with this track, is you really have 3 different sectors, or at least sector 1 and 2, or 1 and 3 I should say, all about the straight lines. But let's just see a quick replay there. Sport going very wide indeed. Just got to be careful to not get on that gravel. But here, sector 1 and 3, all about the straight line speed. So you can really take off the wings. You can really run sort of a more higher speed, higher top speed car. Whereas in that middle sector, you really need that downforce. So if someone's going to run a bit more downforce here, they might even be half a second quicker in that middle sector, but then you're going to lose so much on those straights. And I wonder if that's potentially just a little bit of a difference that we're going to see here between these two cars. We'll have to see once they get into a bit more of a battle.
Slightly surprising to me, at least, to see, speaking of Shara, in the pits, because if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of this evening, he told me he would actually try without a pit stop on Spa-Francorchamps. Not happening for him. Hopefully, though, that was a planned one, not an unplanned. All on board with Tony Mella, right behind Darius Andre. Beautiful blue and green car right in front. And then it's the Team Redline driver up ahead. I like it. Look into La Sauce. Was able to close the gap and now needs all the slipstream once again. He wants to make a move at the end of Camel Straight. We want to be a bit closer though, and it seems like Spork's still giving a slipstream to Darius Andre. But around the outside now, Darius trying to cover up the inside. Is there enough though as they go side by side into the braking zone? Flap close once again, and Darius Andre is able to defend his position here, staying in 8th.
And Mella around the outside, just losing the rear, stopped him getting that overtake. But Andre really had a bad sort of exit of Radion, which is a bit interesting because, as we mentioned, it's pretty much flat out easily in these cars. So he needs to sort that out, otherwise he's going to be getting an overtake there. But now we come back to Shara, who we just saw coming out of the pit lane, is now getting the DRS on Grankvist as they come towards La Source for another time. And this battle for 18th and 19th, certainly not particularly where these guys would have been wanting to look for, but there's still points to be played for down here. And at the end of the day, even in a 6-round championship, every single point matters. So let's see what Shara can do. He's going to be getting the DRS. It opens just here at the kink. And now, is he going to be... He may have been just a little bit too close to get the mass overspeed, so it's going to be a battle on the brakes. Can he go around the outside? We've seen plenty of drive do this so far, and there's going to be a bit of contact there. Grankvist going for a bit of a spin. Where is he? Has he been able to continue? No, he's gone completely for a spin, and he's going to be losing about 5 or so seconds from that.
Wonder if they really touched. I wasn't sure there. Shara went over the inside curb, so it looked like they did, but maybe both tried to avoid the contact here, and with that... ended up worse even. But we are in the window for pit stops. It seems as multiple drivers now pulled in. That is Darius Andre going a bit close, I think, to the actual garages here. Thomas Vach also in. Who else is in? Mella. Tony Mella is in the pits for Sunshow, and Where's Ibrahim Khan? He's only ninth. Did he pit?
I don't remember seeing him hit, but he may have. It just says one stop there. So if he has, that would explain actually why he was so much faster. Because as we mentioned earlier, if you've got to run the 45 minutes worth of fuel, you're going to be about 2 seconds or so faster. But I do hope that for Khan, this is actually more of a planned pit stop.
They didn't touch. They didn't.
Maybe not actually, to be fair, but certainly very close for those two drivers, both not really making the corner how they would have wanted. But this has let Noah Rovers pretty much comfortably take the lead now from D'Alessandro, but Carlos Martin is right behind him, and Keersmakers is making some good progress. So let's see what Khan can do after that. He's got basically 20-odd minutes, about 24 minutes or so when he made his pit stop to make that time back. Rovers coming in as well, so this is interesting. We're now seeing the battle of the one versus the zero stop, really. I say 1 versus 2, but yeah, 1 versus 0 stop. Who is going to stay out? We will see. Let's see, CR getting there. Yeah, maybe there wasn't actually a bit of contact there, but there's certainly maybe some aero stalling or something happening for Gregfist. A bit weird with the way that he spun to do that on your own.
Yeah, I wonder if he was just too aggressive on the pedal and really tried to stay with Shara here, or been a bit of sidetracked as well. But Noah Rovers not going for a zero stop strategy since he just pulled in, right? So he will get a pit stop next to his name very, very soon. His teammates also pulling into the pits, which brings all the other drivers that are still out there up to the front. Alessandro currently leading in front of Martin, and then Spock. And then it should be Payopath in 5th, Rivers in 7th. I'm looking if there's anyone. Rivers is leading the pack for drivers with a pit stop, even though the overlay is showing 0 at the moment. So he's right in front of Ibrahim Khan, basically where they have been before. The car in front, that's Panos Vagianis and Payopath, both without a pit stop so far. And
these guys,
they might even run through. I mean, look at these cars. They could.
Yeah, they might do, but these guys are going to be struggling so much. You can see already how much faster Rovers and Khan are with that fresh rubber, crucially, but also with the fresh sort of instinct that they have now coming out of the pit stop. You really want to start pushing, and this is an important time for them. So let's see, is he going to be able to get the slipstream coming now down through Blanchimont? He's getting a bit close. He's going to have to do a big move here on the brakes, and his Khan trying to come through as well. I don't think he's going to be able to do that, but Rovers now, he's actually got himself in an awkward position. Oh, and he's gone for a bit of a spin. That was a very awkward situation. Rovers now, Khan's getting stuck on Vagianis as well. So Rovers has lost a position there. That was a very interesting situation, because going around the outside of that final corner is not really going to work. And I wonder, was Vagianis maybe trying to come to the pit lane? We will find out, but he's now lost his front wing.
Yeah, his day seems to come to an end, and for Noah Rovers and Ibrahim Khan, that's the worst that could have happened. I mean, there was the start-finish stretch right after this, right, where they could have done the overtaking maybe a bit easier, but obviously none of them wanted to lose time. Now they did, though. Ibrahim Khan up to 5th already, Ronchek in 6th, Noah Rovers in 7th, so there is a car between them now, although looking at the gaps, probably a fighting group very, very soon. Carlos Martin for Nitrax GP still leading, still without a pit stop, and still without DRS is Darius Andre, as he might get overtaken with a small contact between him and Tony Mella, sending Tony Mella across the chicane, luckily not into a wall, so he will be able to continue right behind where he left off, basically. That was very lucky, I would say.
That was so close to a massive accident. Mella could have easily just had a bit of an issue there. But first of all, let's go back to Vagianis. He's going to have Rovers now go down the inside. Was he? Oh no, he just lost the rear end, which puts his car facing effectively the wrong way. He was turning right when everyone's trying to turn left into that final corner. Rovers on the outside, nowhere to go. Then Khan getting caught up in that as well. Oh, his big slide there for Andre. But Rovers, I think, a little bit more unfortunate, as we saw someone else in the pit lane. We'll just get back to that as we get out of this replay. Let's see once again, Rovers coming on the inside. Fair play, he's there. But then as we get to this point, he's going to be turning left when Vagianis was turning right. And unfortunately, how did Rogers lose his front wing? Couldn't quite see. Maybe he hit the wall when turning around. But let's see. Carlos Martin out of the pit lane. He's going to be coming out. Is that just behind Michele D'Alessandro? So that leaves Spork and Pave still out there. So all these drivers starting to make pit stops. And it doesn't seem that at least any of these front guys have gone for the zero-stop strategy. But will those two guys at the front? We will find out. And now Rovers, he's look how much time he's lost. Mrocek has got in front of him as well in all of that. And a bit of contact once again. So these drivers like a bit of contact there up into Les Combes.
Definitely, they do. And when talking about the incident that we just had at the bus-stop chicane, Carlos Martin tapping Ibrahim Khan there. Another a karting move, I would say. Just tapping the rear, getting a bit loose and taking that spot. But the problem with chicane is I raced that track in real life 2 years ago. No, I raced there 2020. No, 2019 actually. 20 was the Corona season, obviously. We're racing Spa, and the issue is that the track is basically falling off to the right and to the left. And while Noah Rovers was up the inside, Vagianis had to go across this crest basically in the middle, and then the car, when being on acceleration, kind of falls off with the rear there into that banking. It happens a ton. It's fun corner to get into because of drifting a lot in real life when you're going like through that with touring cars or like a GT4. But obviously you don't want to have that in such a high-powered open wheeler, 18,000 RPM max. So not the right moment. This is Ibrahim Khan's beautiful slide. After I think the tap though by Carlos Martin.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about touring cars just now, because that was a little bit of, the sort of like nudging, as you see, not normally in the open wheel category, but Martin there getting himself through on calm. And if we look at everyone who's made the pit stops, by the way, this means D'Alessandro is effectively net leading the race as we now come back to Robin Panzart there having a bit of a ding-dong with Tony Miller, but now back towards the front. Noah Rovers trying to go round the outside. He's going to be able to make that work. There's going to be a bit of contact there with Khan, and Khan's going to be able to hold on to that fifth position at the moment, but that's going to leave Mrocek the opportunity to maybe try and get to Rovers. We'll have to see once again, but now Tony Miller coming back at Robin Panzer up towards Les Combes. Is he going to have the overspeed on the outside, or is he going to have to do it on the brakes? He certainly is. And Panzer's then going to be able to hold on to that one. So Miller's going to have to try that once again.
Yeah, Robin Panzer, ice cold there on the defensive line, doing a good job, making sure that Tony Miller stays on 11th. But this fight, Ibrahim Khan versus Noah Rovers, I think that is kind of the main storyline of the entire race so far while we approach the last 15 minutes. And these are the 2 or 3 leading cars, 2 of them without a pit stop. That is, Esports not in there actually. That's still Alessandro in 3rd. So it's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But Alessandro has 1 stop and Payopev has none so far. So he's still running the same old tyres. It is a bit slower, that's for sure.
Yeah, Pev there just didn't have anything on the brakes compared to D'Alessandro getting through there. And this is quite important because remember, D'Alessandro is net leading the race if Spork doesn't pit. And considering how slow Spork was earlier, I'm going to assume that he was running a lot more fuel and was therefore also maybe a bit of tyre saving as well to make sure he gets towards the end. So we'll have to see when the gaps come back up to see how far that is. But Pev here, if he's doing the same, I think he's really going to start losing these positions. Look at all these guys lining up behind him to try and get past. First of all, it is Carlos Martin, who doesn't really seem to have the top speed actually to try and get past, but he does on the brakes. Is there going to be a bit of contact for the 10th time in this corner, this race? And there certainly was. So Martin there trying to go now around the outside on the exit, and that's going to be a crash in front of who's that? Ibrahim Khan getting involved there. He's been in the wars today. Mrocek's trying to get past as well. Who's going to come out on top of that? Looks like Rovers has got through, then Mrocek. And this is quite an interesting situation for the race, because once again, this is going to be turning around again, and the driver's just getting so clumsy in that Les Combes section.
Yeah, I kind of feel like compared to the racing that we see in GT Pro and GT Challenge, drivers tend to overlook drivers on the inside way more. I mean, we saw that happening a few times. We saw it happening a few times on Monday. It's like they turn in and then they kind of have the rear wing of the other car on their rear tire, the front wing of the other car on their rear tire. And then exactly the same happened that we just saw. Someone spins around, and unfortunately it was once again Ibrahim Khan being held up in that. So he's down to 6th to Payopev, the big loser of that, coming out 8th after he had been 4th previously. So Nitrex now with drivers on 3rd and 4th, trying to hunt down D'Alessandro and Spork because that guy is still out there without a single pit stop leading the race.
A bit more contact here in the final chicane. Khan and Mrocek, both aggressive drivers, let's put it that way, coming now towards Lecom. Who's going to come out on top? Because obviously you're going to have the DRS situation here. Do you actually want to be second place coming out of La Source? And that is certainly where Mrocek is going to be. Khan goes right around the outside, but now he's going to have to try and defend. But they also have to look out for Keersmakers, who is trying to get involved as well. So let's see what these drivers can do as they come up the Kemmel Straight. Is Mrocek going to be able to get the overspeed that he needs? It's certainly been quite difficult. These drivers moving around all over the place. Mrocek goes to the outside. Hopefully we don't see contact once again into this corner, but it looks like the driver's getting so close. And Mrocek is going to have to go straight on, and he's going to be able to rejoin in time, whereas Keersmaker's now going to get down the inside, which he does. Bit more contact though, and these drivers are really starting to get a bit feisty in the final stages of the race.
Definitely way more contact than in Formula Pro, that's for sure, as they put on a show here for the very first Formula Challenge powered by Traction.gg race at Spa-Francorchamps. Another 12 minutes to go. 45 minutes the race is in total. And the current leader by Team Redline Sport is out there without the pit stop. Still on the same old tyres that he started with. And that was the touch between, I think, Martin and Pev. If I see that Nitrex car correctly. But it was unfortunate once again. I'm pretty much sure it's harder for the drivers to judge if someone is still on the inside compared to the GT cars, because we just see this way more happening.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's so difficult in a corner like that as well, where it's really a one-line corner to try and allocate the space. But let's see here from the back of Pev is going to have exactly Khan's going to get involved there. Then I think you're going to see Mrocek come in the background there as well. Roivers has already gone past them. A very difficult situation to be in, and the onboard from Mrocek there I think would be quite difficult, because he was almost coming in sideways on the brakes trying to avoid all of those guys, and he has certainly done so. But after all of this, at the front, Spork is still leading from D'Alessandro by 3.5 seconds, so they're probably going to be battling towards the end of the race. But there is now a 6-second gap between D'Alessandro and Roivers, and that is going to be very difficult for Roivers to overcome with his teammate Carlos Martins. So D'Alessandro is in such good position here to get a win, only if he can catch and overtake Spork.
Yeah, with 10.5 minutes, I think there's plenty of time for him, while Panzer is aiming for Andre. Let's see if that works here. Darius Andre on the outside. Oh, had to go over the curb once again, and that probably gives the position now to, once again, same corner, same overlooking of the car up the inside. But the replay we just saw from Ibrahim Khan running into Payapath and Carlos Martin there previously, I wonder if Ibrahim Khan also touched the rear of Payapath, basically simultaneously as Martin closed the door. It was very unlucky. This is the situation for Panzer, then the mistake by Darius Andre. Basically open up the door here, and then we see it. He's closing it very much. I mean, there was no way for Robin Panzer to go anywhere.
That was... Oh, it's such a difficult corner there. We were saying this just a few minutes ago with the Carlos Martin incident as well. That corner is just such a one-line corner. You can't really be diving down. Panzer's very fortunate there that Andre was actually sort of really looking, because he could have easily just turned in there and had a big accident once again. And now Mrocek, he's actually going to be a help there potentially, because Keersmakers is going to get a very bad exit. He's going to be quite far away as we get towards Eau Rouge and Radion, the all-important corners. Keersmakers about 0.7 of a second behind as we come up. I don't think that's going to be enough for an overtake, but it will be enough for him to at least close down to get maybe an overtake at the end of the lap.
See, Laurent Keersmakers with the DRS, obviously not enough to attack David Mrocek immediately, but allows him to close the gap here, get a bit closer to 6, maybe even to the top 5, only held by Ibrahim Khan, who's probably the driver with most contacts within the top 3, and also most, not blaming him here, just saying that he was very unlucky so far, not just on software or hardware side or connection, but also in terms of the overall race. If there was someone spinning, it was very likely that Ibrahim Khan somehow got stuck there.
Yeah, It's not been the best race for Khan, but what he has to realise is he's still in 5th place at the moment, and this is a long enough championship that he can come back from that. We don't have a sprint and feature race situation, so it's only this race that counts for the points. So there's only 6 races total, but if he has the speed that he's got, I think he should be fine with challenging for this title and the all-important place in the Formula Pro for next season as well. But many drivers are going to be fighting for that, obviously. It's not going to be easy, but let's see. Vagianis now coming down the inside of Pittais. He's actually already DNF'd from the race, so there's going to be a bit of contact there with Pittais, and now Shara's going to be getting involved. Pittais then spins in front of him, and Pittais losing his front wing as well as Shara, and they're going to be having some contact. I think that might be a little bit ago, because Vagianis has, I believed, already DNF'd from this race since then.
Very unfortunately for Shara, another one that is on the losing end due to what happened in front. Kersmakers once again right behind David Mronček. This time a lot closer than on the previous lap. See if we can find a way left and right. He wants to make sure that Mronček sees his car all over the rear view mirror, applying some pressure on the Burst Esports driver, but also only has roughly 7 minutes left. Colin Spork still leading and still on the old tyres. I say that so often, but it's actually incredible that he's still out there and that he's still in front of Michel De Alessandro, who is on the fresher set of tyres, who probably runs on a similar fuel, actually, but better tyres, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're going to be on similar fuel because obviously there's only 6 minutes left, so they probably only have about 6 minutes of fuel left. But let's see what D'Alessandro can do. This is effectively the race for the win. As we say, Spork's not going to be pitting, and he now goes down the inside, and that's going to be the overtake done. He's got so much more grip, as you say, than Spork, and that's been coming for a little while. I think D'Alessandro is now going to go off into the distance, so fair play to him. He has done the strategy right, but I don't think that Spork has actually got this wrong. Spork was down in about 9th, 10th position that he qualified, so him getting this high up is certainly going to be good, and because of all those issues for the guys behind, he's got many seconds to burn, even if he wants to stay within his top 5. So Spork, I think, is actually doing a really good job here to get himself up from where he qualified. So let's see how that one goes for him, but D'Alessandro just a little bit too quick, and certainly a good strategy from the Italian.
It works if you were outside of the top 10 to basically get in. I mean, we see Paypath was a second driver without a pit stop. He's currently in 8th. That's 10 seconds difference between him and Tony Mella at 9th. And that was already with the spin that Paypath had with Ibrahim Khan and Noel Rivers, right? So if you do not take that into account and they would just run without these issues, then there's a high chance currently, at least before the last 5 minutes, to be within the top 5 if you do not pit.
Oh, certainly. The pit stop does lose you a decent amount, actually. To be fair, as we said, Spork was sort of in the lower parts of the top 10 before this happened, so he certainly gained a lot of time, and with that only being just under 5 minutes to go now, he's not going to lose the sort of will that be about 7 seconds or so to drop outside of that top 5. So I think he's put himself in a really good position, and I'm glad that someone's actually tried that and everyone hasn't just gone with the easy strategy of doing a one-stop roughly halfway through the race. But let's see a replay now down the inside. Just really nice out-braking maneuver. Easily had the corner, was right within the sort of abilities of his car at that time. Spork not really going to fight that too hard. You can already see on his tyres, actually, just the graphical visualization of how much wear he's got.
Yeah, definitely not the freshest ones, that's for sure. But if it ends up with him being on the podium, then it definitely paid off, considering that his qualification wasn't what we expected after the hot lap qualifier, where he was leading. Kersmaker's still not done with his overtake on David Mronček, and the gap also got a lot bigger now. Even with DRS, it will not make it any better for him. Nearly 1.5 seconds. Noah Rivers, he got a bit more than a second to Colin Spork from Team Redline, so there might be a chance for Noah Rivers to get second before the end of the race, but probably not passing the Alessandro. Now, and I would say, though, without taking away from D'Alessandro, that probably Ibrahim Khan or Noah Rivers would have won without the... How many incidents were they involved? At least both 2, maybe even 3.
Yeah, Khan's been in, I believe, 3. Well, I think I was seeing that he had another freezer we didn't show on stream. So he's had 3 or 4 issues this race. And certainly having the big spin, I mean, they lost easily at least 5 seconds or so. So there would be a lot more of a battle, let's say, for the leading spots. But D'Alessandro has still put himself in a really good position. And staying out of trouble, yes, sometimes it's not really your fault, but staying out of trouble is part of the racing. And even in a 45-minute race where it's more of a sprint race, you've still got to get to the end and get yourself in a good position. And D'Alessandro's had a pretty clean race so far. And now Roivers, on the back of Spork, might be able to get Netrex up into second place.
Interesting even that Noah Roivers and Ibrahim Khan still have all their wings on the car, considering that nearly every other in all the accidents they were in, always someone lost something, but they didn't. Noah Roivers now up the inside of Colin Spork, and that's probably an easy one, because Colin Spork is still on those old tires, so it's more grip available for Noah Roivers, the young Dutchman, making sure that he's at least second with 2 minutes to go and 4.5 seconds. That is probably too much here for him to have a bigger comeback and even hunt down D'Alessandro.
Yeah, that gap between D'Alessandro and Roivers has stayed fairly constant over the last few laps, around the high 4, low 5 seconds. So I think it's going to be a bit difficult for him to get the win. D'Alessandro is going to be coming across the line fairly shortly to start what will be the final lap of the race. So getting that time in 1 lap is going to be very difficult indeed, but Roivers still should be fairly happy with getting himself onto the podium, considering with the spins that he's had as well, which just shows you potentially where other people need to maybe improve on. But there's been probably, I think we can say, 1 too many incidents this race, so hopefully everyone calms down a little bit when we get to the next track in Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time, because there's certainly been probably too many incidents in this race.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm pretty much sure that race director will be quite busy after this one to sort all the incidents, have a look at them, and maybe hand out a few penalties here and there. Not saying loads of them, but probably a few incoming. And then it sorts itself out maybe for Silverstone, our second round of the championship, and then third round would be the Nürburgring GP. Oh, look, that's a beautiful shot of the front tires of Colin Spork, and you can definitely see that they are mint condition, never been abused on eBay probably after this race.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to be taking them out again, but staying on the podium would be very good indeed, as we are looking at, I believe that's D'Alessandro there, and his tyres still looking a bit worn, but obviously in a better shape than Spork, having done half the distance, and we now hit 0 minutes remaining, so D'Alessandro will be coming across to finish the race very shortly indeed. But I think Spork, with a bit over 1 second to Khan, might be able to hold on to this podium, which would be a really good result, trying that alternate strategy, getting himself up at least 6 positions from his starting position.
Yeah, I would say you can consider that a successful first test of, at least on such a track, running without a pit stop, but also then, and I know I said that previously, without the accidents, it will probably be past him a lot earlier. So you also have to play around with what's happening on the track, and unfortunately it's very hard to decide for not stopping mid-race, because you obviously want to have the right amount of fuel with you, and if you do stop, then it was obviously wrong to start with that fuel, but it is D'Alessandro winning in front of Noah Roivers. And then Spork, Ibrahim Khan, Carlos Martin, Moronchek, Kezmakers, Tayo Paf, Tony Mella, and then Robin Panzer to close the top 10. By the way, Arne Schonflit, who was 7th very early in the race, or 8th and 7th, then lost his front wing. He is up to 11th. Definitely a great comeback, but these two are still racing. Adam Rainey and Thomas Schwach. Thomas now down to 12, and it seems like Rainey will be able to take it. Nope. Oh, he's letting him pass, I think. Might have not been super happy with his overtaking there. And with that, they come 12th and 13th. There is Andre. 14th. Was also involved in an accident at the end of the race, kind of. And next up should be, speaking of Shara, who lost the front wing a few laps ago.
Yeah, and these, you have to remember these guys as well, they get points all the way down the field. So it's very important to be getting those points. But let's have the confirmation of the result here. D'Alessandro for Pescara getting the first win of the Formula Challenge Series, which is going to be very good because he will be getting the full 35 points for the win. And the reason why that is quite important, because second place is 30 points, which might be like, oh, that's only 5 points. But below that, it goes down to 1 point per position. So obviously, in theory, you'd have to overtake 5 people lower down to get that sort of gain. So that 5-point margin, very good for D'Alessandro to get in this opening race of the season. Rovers and Spork rounding out the podium, having a very good race. Hopefully, Rovers can, and also Khan in 4th place, can have a little less incidents as you get further on during the season. But Rovers team Netrex certainly looking very good, getting 2 cars up into that top 5 before we have Mrocek and Keersmakers, who I think will be challenging a little bit more for those podiums as we get further on in the season, along with Pave, Mella and Panzar to round out the top 10. Those guys had a pretty solid race indeed. I think especially Panzar sort of gained a little bit from some other people's issues, so hopefully they can get themselves up there on the raw pace. But I think, Rene, overall, we can say that it was a very good race, but I think some incidents really sort of changed the course of the race as well.
They definitely did. It was a very eventful race. Let's put it like that. With drivers being caught up in spins and other various activities that are not really doing the fastest lap time, I would say. And that definitely changed the outcome, even though Michel D'Alessandro did an amazing job here. The driver that also did a pit stop, so Colin Spork was the quickest without a pit stop in 3rd. So he played his cards right, he made sure that he stayed out of trouble, and it definitely paid off for him. And as you said, he got that 5-point of a gap going into the race at Silverstone. That will be big here due to those small gaps between different positions. So let's see what he can do out of that. Arne Schonfleet, 11th, said that was a big comeback. Thomas Vash in 12th, and then Adam Rainey, who let Vach past right before the start finish. Darius Andre in 14th, Shara in 15th, and then Romanjic in 16th. Granqvist, who could have had a way better race, so could have had Jimmy Paris's, but due to what happened on track and the entire list of DNFs that you kind of see the start of here with Vagianis and Piteas, and then Visna Nisula, Arjona, Barbakov, and Stepkovsky not seeing the checkered flag at all. Definitely something that they want to change next race, because after Silverstone, that's the first time where we send people up and down the splits due to promotion, due to demotion. So they will want to make up for that.
Yeah, and it's five positions as well, the bottom 5, top 5. So it's quite a lot actually. So you really need to make sure that you're getting yourself out of those positions. But we'll have to find out on the 6th of August. So in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be going to Silverstone. But don't forget that we also have the GT Pro Draft coming up on Monday. Then the week after, we go back to Formula Pro as well. So lots of top-level esports coming your way.
Yeah, when it comes to rFactor 2 competitions, and obviously Monday is a day to mark in your calendar. That's where the Formula Pro Series happens, and then the week after it's always the GT Pro Series. In this case, we start with a draft, so we're a bit behind on your schedule. Not behind on schedule, that sounds wrong, but it starts later than the Formula Pro Series. And on Friday, we will always have the Formula Challenge Series. There will be GT Challenge as well, so pretty easy to remind yourself of the days, but it's the same every week. That makes it easy to watch. Thank you, Cameron, for joining me today in the first challenge broadcast. I will see each other probably next Monday in the draft. I guess the entire crew will be around to see that happening again. And make sure to follow rFactor 2 on the social medias and be informed about everything that's happening, not just around the sim, but also around all the championships that are currently running. Thanks to Traction.gg for supporting putting the series up there where it is at right now. And that means it's the end of the day. Great weekend to everyone. My name is Rene, and see you guys next time.